What if I told you that the doubt currently paralyzing your spirit is an intruder, that it was not born within you, but was installed, not by truth or evidence, but by the relentless repetition of a world that fears the exceptional? For years you have been fed the stale bread of "it cannot be done." You have watched capable men shrink their ambitions to fit into the narrow cages of a wage-earning existence, built by the fear of risk and the decay of the handloom for the factory. What if I told you that every moment of indecision, every quiet thought telling you to play it safe or to wait for a more favorable wind, was never yours to begin with? It was borrowed from the mediocre, programmed by the timid, and repeated by those who do not understand the mechanics of industrial progress. Because you, my friend, were not made to question the power of your own mind. You were made to build. You were made to organize. You were made to rise. Not eventually, not when the markets align perfectly, but now. And if you stay with me, not with a wandering mind, but with the focused intensity of a master workman, if you breathe these principles and return to them daily, then something will begin to shift, not in theory, but in identity. What I am about to give you is not a talk of empty encouragement. It is a full recalibration of the mental machinery that has quietly allowed doubt to lead your steps for far too long. When the last word is spoken, you will no longer recognize the version of yourself that accepted universal squalor as fate. Because doubt, as I shall show you, is a habit, and habits can be broken by the application of the will. But belief is a decision. Belief is the act of reclaiming the sovereign authority of your mind before the world taught you to shrink. Today, we return to that man, the one who knew he was meant for more than a stated salary, the one who didn't wait for proof to take the first step toward ownership, the one who acted as if victory was an industrial law. Let us examine the first great pillar of my philosophy, the bracing school of poverty. Many of you view your lack of means as a curse. You look at the walls of your modest home and you see a prison. But I tell you, it is a laboratory. It is the only place where the true steel of character is forged. I was born in a weaver's cottage, in a room where the loom and the bed shared the same floor. My father was a man of the old world, a man whose trade was destroyed by the arrival of the steam engine. I watched him trudge through the streets of Dunfermline, looking for work that no longer existed. It was there, in the scent of the pine and the sound of the loom, that I learned the first rule of wealth. Necessity is the greatest tutor. A man born to luxury is a man born with his muscles already softened. He has no reason to strain, no reason to innovate, no reason to rise. But the boy who must earn his own bread, who must contribute to the family's survival before he has reached his teens, that boy is learning the law of value. He understands that the world does not owe him a living. He understands that every penny is a symbol of energy expended. When I arrived in America, a young immigrant with nothing but the clothes on my back, I did not ask for charity, I asked for a job. I became a bobbin boy in a cotton factory, working for $1.20 a week. Was I discouraged? No, I was an apprentice to the great law. I learned the rhythm of the machines. I learned the necessity of punctuality. I learned that even in the lowest position, a man can distinguish himself through the simple act of doing more than is required of him. You must understand that the distinction between the man who rises and the man who remains in the gutter is not luck, it is the habit of observation. While other boys in that factory were lamenting their long hours, I was observing the steam engine. I was questioning the foreman. I was learning how the cotton became cloth and how the cloth became capital. This is the difference.
The servant sees a task, the master sees a process. The mind that is focused on the why will soon find itself in command of the how. If you find yourself in a humble position today, do not complain. Instead, study your surroundings as if they were a university. The telegraph office was my university. The railway was my university. The blast furnace was my university. I tell you, the man who is too big for a small job is too small for a big one. We move now to the second pillar, the law of useful service. Most men fail because they are looking for a shortcut to wealth. They want the harvest without the planting. They seek the gold without the forge. But wealth, true, lasting wealth, is merely the shadow cast by service. If you wish to increase your income, you must increase your usefulness. You must become a man whose absence would be a tragedy to his industry. When I moved from the cotton mill to the telegraph office, I did not simply deliver messages. I learned to read the ticker by sound, a feat few thought possible. I learned the names of every businessman in the city. I made myself the most efficient messenger in the city. Why? Because I understood that the man who does only what he is paid for will never be paid for anything more. You must over-deliver. You must provide a surplus of value long before you demand a surplus of pay. Ask yourself, truly, what is the value you bring to the marketplace? If you are easily replaced, you will be poorly paid. That is the law of competition, and it is a just law. To rise, you must develop a specialty. You must become the monopoly of your own talent. The world does not reward trying, it rewards doing. It rewards the man who can take a message through the lines and deliver it while others are still asking for directions. There is a false idea floating amongst the masses that capital and labor are natural enemies. I tell you, they are as necessary to each other as the two blades of a pair of shears. But the man who wishes to transition from being the hand that moves the shear to being the mind that owns the shop must first prove he can handle the tool with more skill than any other. Do not envy the man of wealth. Study him. Observe the concentration of his mind. Observe the rigor of his schedule. Success is not a secret hidden in a vault. It is a mathematical certainty for the man who aligns his habits with the laws of production. You are not a victim of the economy. You are the architect of your own personal economy. If you spend more than you earn, you are a slave. If you earn more than you spend and you invest that surplus into your own education and your own enterprise, you are a sovereign. The first step toward the millions is the mastery of the penny. I have seen many a young man fail, not for lack of talent, but for lack of the discipline to deny himself a momentary pleasure for a lifetime of power. The architecture of your ambition begins with the first stone you lay today. Make it a stone of quality. Make it a stone of purpose. This is part one of your journey. The foundation is laid. The machinery is being greased. We are moving from the apprentice's bench to the manager's office. Stay focused, stay industrious, and let the fire of your purpose burn away the dross of your doubt. Now we move to the heart of the industrial machine, the second great lesson of the master, the concentration of energy. If part one was the foundation, then part two is the furnace. I have observed the lives of 1,000 men, and the difference between the man who builds an empire and the man who merely builds a shed is the focus of his soul. The world is full of dabblers, men who are interested in many things but committed to nothing. They have a dozen small fires burning, but none of them are hot enough to melt iron. My advice to the young man who seeks a fortune is this, and mark it well. Put all your eggs in one basket, and then watch that basket. Do not be a jack of all trades. In this modern age, the generalist is a servant, but the specialist is a sovereign. You must find your monopoly of talent. You must find that one industry, that one craft, that one service where your energy can be most effectively applied. And once you find it, you must pour every ounce of your intellect, every hour of your day, and every drop of your ambition into that single vessel. I have seen men fail, not because they lacked ability, but because they lacked the staying power. They started in the leather trade, but when the market dipped, they ran to the oil trade. When oil grew difficult, they fled to the railways. They spent their lives running away from challenges instead of mastering them. I tell you, the man who masters one thing, who knows more about his particular craft than any man alive,
Who knows more about his particular craft than any other man alive? That man has no competition. He creates his own market. Consider the steel. In its raw form, iron ore is worth very little. It is common, it is heavy, it is unrefined. But when you concentrate the heat, when you remove the impurities, when you forge it with intent, it becomes the backbone of civilization. You must treat your mind like a blast furnace. You must burn away the dross of hobbies and distractions. If a pursuit does not lead directly to your chief aim, it is a weed in your garden. Pull it out. I recall the early days of the Keystone Bridge Company. We did not try to build every bridge in America. We focused on the bridges that mattered. We focused on the bridges that required the most skill, the most innovation, the most steel. By concentrating our energy, we became the standard. We became the inevitable choice. This is the power of the specialist. When you are the best at one thing, the world will beat a path to your door, and they will bring their capital with them. Let us speak of the Caste of Ignorance. This is the group of men who believe that success is a matter of pull or connections. They believe that the titans of industry were simply lucky. I tell you, there is no such thing as luck in the counting house. There is only the law of cause and effect. If you provide the cause, the effect will follow with the certainty of the sunrise. The cause is industry. The cause is frugality. The cause is the concentration of your will. If you are a clerk, do not merely be a clerk. Be the clerk who knows the inventory better than the owner. If you are a salesman, do not merely sell. Understand the psychology of the buyer. Understand the chemistry of the product. Make yourself a fountain of knowledge, and you will eventually become a fountain of wealth. Wealth, you must understand, is not a static pool. It is a flowing river. To divert that river toward your own bank, you must build a channel. That channel is built with the shovel of discipline and the pickaxe of persistence. Most men dig for an hour and then complain that they are not yet rich. They do not realize that the water only flows once the channel is complete. You must be willing to live on less than you earn for as long as it takes to build your primary capital. I have no sympathy for the man who cries about his poverty while he spends his evenings in the alehouse. I have no sympathy for the man who says he cannot find opportunity while he sleeps until noon. Opportunity is a jealous mistress. She only visits those who are already hard at work. I remember the first dividend I ever received. It was from the Adams Express Company. It was only a few dollars, but to me it was a revelation. It was the first time my money had worked for me instead of me working for the money. I saw then the power of the surplus. That surplus, no matter how small, is the seed of your empire. You must protect that seed. You must plant it and water it and refuse to eat it until it has grown into a tree that can feed you for a lifetime. Many of you are waiting for a big break. You are waiting for the perfect moment. I tell you, the perfect moment is a ghost. It does not exist. The only moment you have is the one you are breathing in right now. The man who waits for the wind to be exactly right never leaves the harbor. The man who rows, regardless of the wind, is the one who finds the new world. Look at the law of competition once more. It is the greatest educator of the human race. It forces us to be better. It forces us to be cheaper. It forces us to be more useful. Do not cry out for fairness or for the government to protect you from your rivals. Your only protection is your own excellence. If your rival is better than you, do not hate him. Study him. Find out where his strength lies, and then outwork him. This is the industrial realism that built the modern world. It is not always kind, but it is always just. It elevates the organized mind, and it degrades the scattered mind. Which one are you? Are you a master of energy or a victim of distraction? As we close this second movement of our discourse, I want you to look at your hands. Are they the hands of a builder? Look at your schedule. Is it the schedule of a conqueror? If not, change it. Not tomorrow, not next week, now. We come now to the third movement of our masterclass, a movement I call the sovereignty of the self. If you have followed me through the bracing air of poverty and through the focused heat of the furnace of concentration, then you are ready to hear the heavy truth of the mind's own mechanics. I have sat with the kings of industry, I have negotiated with the masters of the rail, and I have walked the floor of the cottage. And I tell you, the only difference between the man who commands and the man who obeys is the quality of the instructions he gives to his own subconscious mind. Let us speak first of the law of auto-suggestion, though in my day we simply called it the habitual thought. You must understand that your mind is like a fertile field. It does not care what seeds you plant. If you plant the seeds of "I can't," or "it is too hard," or "the economy is against me," then the soil of your spirit will yield a harvest of weeds and thorns and failure. But if you plant the seeds of "I will," and "I must," and "I am the master of this industry," then the harvest will be gold. But planting the seed is not enough. You must water it, you must fertilize it, you must protect it from the crows of criticism. And how do you do this? Through the relentless, mechanical, and unapologetic repetition of your chief aim. I have told young men for 50 years, write your goal on a card, read it when you wake, read it before you sleep, and read it until the words are not just on the paper, but are burned into the very fabric of your soul. When I was a young boy working for peanuts in the telegraph office, I did not tell myself I am a messenger. I told myself I am the man who will own the telegraph. I said it until I believed it. I said it until every action, every stride, and every word of mine reflected that inevitable future. The subconscious mind, you see, does not know the difference between a present reality and a future command, if that command is given with enough fire and enough frequency. Let us look at the law of thrift, for this is where most men of the modern age stumble and fall. They want the appearance of wealth before they have the foundation of wealth. They spend their first surplus on a finer coat, or a faster horse, or a larger house. They are slaves to the opinion of their neighbors. I tell you, the man who cannot live on less than he earns is a man who will never be free. He is a servant to his debts. I remember with a clarity that has never faded the day I earned my first dividend. It was a check for $10. To some, it was a small thing. To me, it was a sovereign power. It was the first time in my life that capital had labored for me instead of my hands laboring for capital.
I did not spend that $10. I did not buy a luxury. I used it as a seed to buy another share, and another, and another. The gospel of wealth, you must realize, begins with the gospel of the penny. If you cannot master the small, you will be crushed by the large. I have seen millionaires, men who built vast empires, lose everything because they forgot the discipline of the small things. They grew soft, they grew arrogant, they began to believe that they were above the laws of industry, and the laws of industry, like the laws of gravity, do not care who you are. If you stop producing, you will stop rising.
Now, let us address the most controversial pillar of my worldview, the law of competition. In your age, as in mine, there are many who cry out against the cruelty of the market. They want to protect the weak and the lazy and the unorganized from the cold wind of reality. But I tell you, the law of competition is the best thing that ever happened to the human race. It is competition that forced us to turn iron into steel. It is competition that forced us to build the railway across the continent. It is competition that ensures that the man who can provide the best service at the lowest price is the man who wins the day. Does it hurt? Yes, it is bracing, it is hard, but it is the only way to separate the wheat from the chaff. It ensures that the resources of the world are in the hands of the men who can use them best. If you fear competition, it is because you are not yet a master of your craft. The master does not fear his rivals, he welcomes them. He uses their strength to test his own. He uses their innovations to spark his own. He understands that the race is long and that the only true rival is the version of himself that was satisfied yesterday. Consider the concentration of energy once again. Most of you are trying to do too much. You are interested in a dozen different schemes. You have one foot in the real estate market, another in the stock market, and a third in a trade you do not understand. I tell you, the man who scatters his interests scatters his power. Put all your eggs in one basket, and then watch that basket. This is the rule of the specialist. When I went into steel, I went into steel with everything I had. I did not dabble in coal except to fuel my furnaces. I did not dabble in rails except to carry my product. I focused my mind like a magnifying glass until it burned a hole in the competition. You must do the same. Find your monopoly of talent. Find that one thing where you can be the best in your city, then the best in your state, then the best in the world. And do not be distracted by the easy money that lies on the side of the road. The easy money is a trap. It is a distraction designed to lead you away from the grand prize. Let us speak of the duty of the trustee. This is the moral heart of the gospel of success. If you follow my laws, if you apply the discipline and the thrift and the concentration, the wealth will come. It is inevitable. But when it comes, you must realize that it is not yours to squander. A man who dies rich dies disgraced. These are the words that have guided my later years. You are merely an agent for the community. You have been given the talent to accumulate because you have the talent to administer. You must use that wealth to build ladders, not to give handouts, for a handout only degrades the receiver, but to build libraries and universities and parks and laboratories where the aspiring boy can find the tools to lift himself. The problem of our age is the proper administration of wealth, so that the ties of brotherhood may still bind together the rich and the poor in harmonious relationship. This cannot be done through the state. It cannot be done through charity that is given without thought. It can only be done by the individual who is willing to put his own mind and his own heart into the work of distribution, just as he put his mind and heart into the work of accumulation. I have sat in the cottages of the poor,
and I have sat in the palaces of the rich. And I tell you, the most miserable man I ever met was the man who had millions and no purpose. He had reached the summit and found that he had nowhere else to go. He had become a prisoner of his own possessions. Do not let this be you. Build your empire not for the sake of the gold, but for the sake of the game. Build it because it is the highest use of your faculties. Build it because the world needs your organization and your energy and your vision. And when the empire is built, turn your attention to the needs of your fellow man. This is the only life that is worthy of a sovereign individual. It is a life of industry followed by a life of stewardship. It is a life that leaves the world better than it found it. Look at your hands once more. Are they ready for the work? Look at your mind. Is it ready for the discipline? The morning whistle is blowing. The furnaces are hot. The rails are waiting. Do not wait for a sign. The only sign you need is the breath in your lungs and the fire in your heart. The master of your mind is the master of your destiny. We must go deeper into the art of management, for the man who wishes to rise must eventually lead others. You cannot build a steel empire with your own 2 hands alone. You must learn to find men who are better than yourself. I once said that my epitaph should read, "Here lies a man who was able to surround himself with men who were much cleverer than he." This is not modesty. It is the highest form of industrial realism. The manager is the conductor of the orchestra. He does not play the violin. He does not play the trumpet. He ensures that every musician is playing in harmony and that they are all moving towards the same goal. To lead, you must first be a man of character. Men will not follow a liar. They will not follow a coward. They will not follow a man who is not willing to work harder than they are. When the strike came or when the market crashed, I was the first one in the office. I was the last one to leave. I showed them that the success of the firm was my life's blood, and in return, they gave me their best. You must learn the value of the partnership. In the early days, I did not pay my top men with salaries alone. I gave them an interest in the business. I made them owners. I wanted them to wake up in the middle of the night thinking about how to save a penny or how to improve the process. When a man is working for himself, he is a different creature than a man who is working for a paycheck. This is the secret of the great industrial consolidations. It is the alignment of self-interest with the common interest. You must create a system where every man, from the foreman to the clerk, knows that his own success is tied to the success of the enterprise. This is how you build a force that is unstoppable. But beware of the soft life. I have seen many a great firm fall into ruin because the second generation grew comfortable. They forgot the struggles of the founder. They forgot the discipline that built the mills. They began to care more about the social club than the counting house. I tell you, there is no such thing as maintaining a business. You are either growing or you are dying. The moment you stop innovating, the moment you stop looking for a way to be more efficient, is the moment your competitor will begin to overtake you. The law of competition never sleeps. It is always looking for a weakness. You must be relentless. You must be lean. You must be organized. And most of all, you must be a man of purpose. Success, you must understand, is not an event. It is a habit. It is the result of 1,000 small decisions made every day. It is the decision to wake up an hour early. It is the decision to read a technical journal instead of a gossip sheet. It is the decision to save $1 instead of spending it. These decisions seem small in the moment, but they compound. They build a momentum that is impossible to stop. I have seen men of very little talent become giants simply because they had the habit of success. They did not know how to quit. They did not know how to settle for good enough. They were like the steam engine, steady, relentless, and always moving forward. Do you have the habit of success, or do you have the habit of excuse? The man of excuse is always looking for someone to blame. He blames the weather. He blames the government. He blames his boss. He blames his parents. But the man of success blames only himself. He knows that if he is not where he wants to be, it is because he has not yet done the work. Take responsibility for your own life. Do not wait for someone to give you an opportunity.
Take responsibility for your own life. Do not wait for someone to give you an opportunity. The road to success is paved with failure. You will be knocked down. You will be ridiculed. You will be told that your ideas are impossible. But you must, like the iron, grow harder with every strike of the hammer. I remember when we were building the first steel bridge across the Mississippi. The world said it couldn't be done. They said the current was too strong. They said the spans were too long. They said the steel was too brittle. But we did not listen. We persisted. We solved the problems one by one. And today, that bridge still stands as a monument to the power of the human will. Persistence is the quality that separates the trustee from the dreamer. The dreamer has the vision, but the trustee has the stamina to make the vision a reality. If you are facing a wall, do not turn back. Climb it, dig under it, or go through it, but do not stop. For the moment you stop is the moment you have truly failed. And finally, we must speak of character. For wealth without character is a hollow victory. I have seen men achieve great power and use it to crush their fellow man. I have seen men acquire millions and lose their soul in the process. Character is the foundation of the empire. It is the quality that allows you to be trusted. It is the quality that allows you to lead. It is the quality that allows you to look in the mirror at the end of the day and be proud of the man you see. Be honest in your dealings. Be fair in your judgments. Be generous in your spirit. And never, ever compromise your principles for a temporary gain. A man's reputation is his most valuable asset. It takes a lifetime to build and a moment to destroy. Protect it as you would protect your own life. For at the end of the day, when the furnaces are cold and the mills are silent, the only thing that truly remains is the character of the man who built them. This is the gospel of success. This is the empire of business. This is the sovereignty of the self. Now, go. The world is waiting. Let us pull back the curtain even further into the machinery of the mind. You must understand that wealth is not merely a matter of bookkeeping. It is a matter of psychology. I have observed that the man who fears poverty is the man who remains in it. Fear, you see, is a form of negative instruction. It tells the subconscious to look for obstacles instead of openings. It tells the soul to shrink when it should be expanding. I have lived through the dark days of 1873 and the panic of 1893. I saw men of great reputation, men who owned vast tracts of land and hundreds of machines, crumble into dust. Why? Because their minds were not armored with the law of success. They saw the market dip and they panicked. They listened to the whispers of the crowd and they forgot their own sovereignty. But the builder, the man who understands the industrial law, does not panic. He knows that a panic is merely a period of inventory for the human race. It is the time when the inefficient are cleared away and the organized are given the opportunity to acquire the tools of the future at a discount. In the midst of the worst depression, I was not looking at the losses. I was looking at the furnaces. I was looking at the tracks. I was looking for the men who still had the fire of purpose in their eyes. You must develop what I call the psychology of the surplus. Most of you are living in a psychology of the deficit. You are thinking about what you lack. You are thinking about the bills you cannot pay. You are thinking about the luck you haven't had. This is the path to the grave. You must shift your focus to the surplus. Even if you have only a single penny, that is a surplus over nothing. That penny is your initial capital. It is your first soldier in the army of your achievement, and you must treat it with the respect that a general gives to his troops. You must command it to multiply. How do you do this? By the law of useful reinvestment. Every time you earn, you must take a portion and reinvest it into the one thing that can never be taxed and never be stolen: yourself. Buy the book that teaches you the chemistry of your trade. Attend the lecture that expands your understanding of the world. Spend your hours in the company of men who are more successful than you are. I have often said that I would rather associate with a successful man who is a scoundrel than a failure who is a saint. Why? Because success is a contagion. The habits of the master rub off on the apprentice. The way he speaks, the way he moves, the way he decides, these are the invisible lessons that no university can teach. I recall my early encounters with the masters of the Pennsylvania Railroad. I did not just listen to their orders. I watched how they handled a crisis. I watched how they weighed a risk. I watched how they managed the thousands of men under their command. I was a sponge, soaking up the sovereignty of the self. And when my time came to lead, I was not guessing. I was executing a pattern I had already mastered in my mind. You must realize that the law of the trustee begins long before you have millions. You are the trustee of your own life. You are the trustee of your own talent. You are the trustee of your own time. And at the end of your days, you will be asked for an accounting. Did you use your talent to lift the world, or did you bury it in the sand of your own hesitation? Did you use your time to build a monument of industry, or did you waste it in the caste of ignorance? The world is a hard taskmaster. It does not give rewards for good intentions. It only gives rewards for results. And results are the byproduct of a mind that has been disciplined to look for the industrial inevitable. Let us speak of the vices of the idle. I have seen the children of the rich born into the cradle of ease, and I tell you, they are to be pitied. They have no bracing wind. They have no school of necessity. They spend their days chasing pleasures that leave them hollow. They are like the slag produced by the furnace. They have the appearance of substance, but no strength. Do not envy the man who has made it without effort. He is a ghost walking in a world of reality. Envy the man who is in the midst of the struggle. Envy the man whose muscles are aching and whose mind is racing to solve a problem. For that man is truly alive. He is in the forge. He is being tempered. Success, you must understand, is not a destination. It is the process of the struggle. The joy is in the building. The satisfaction is in the organization. The glory is in the triumph over the impossible. When we built the Bessemer converters and the sparks flew and the molten steel poured out, it was not the profit that gave me the greatest thrill. It was the knowledge that we had conquered the iron. We had turned the brittle into the unbreakable. We had provided the steel for the bridges and the buildings and the rails that would carry the human race into a new era. You too must become a Bessemer converter. You must take the raw iron of your life and you must subject it to the intense heat of your purpose.
You must blow the oxygen of your will through your soul to burn away the impurities, and you must not stop until you have produced the steel of character. The world needs steel. It needs men who are immovable in their principles. It needs men who are relentless in their industry. It needs men who understand that the gospel of wealth is the gospel of service. As we close this supplement, I want you to make a covenant with yourself, not a wish, not a hope, a covenant. I will from this hour be the master of my own mind. I will from this hour concentrate my energy on a single chief aim. I will from this hour live by the law of the surplus and the law of the trustee. Write it down, sign it, and then act as if the world already belongs to you, because in the mental world it already does. The master of your mind is the master of your destiny. The whistle has blown. The day has begun. Get to work. We have traveled through the smoke of the furnace and through the quiet discipline of the counting house. We have mastered the penny and we have mastered the will. But now we come to the final peak, the summit where a man no longer looks at what he can acquire, but at what he must leave behind. This is part 4, the final commission, the empire of the legacy. You must understand that the ultimate test of a man of success is not how he began, but how he finishes. I have seen many men climb the ladder with great speed, only to find that the ladder was leaning against the wrong wall. They achieved wealth, but they lost their honor. They achieved power, but they lost their peace. I tell you, the only true success is the one that allows you to look the world in the eye and say, I have used my faculties for the advancement of my race. Let us speak of the 3 industrial commandments. The first is the commandment of integrity. In the high-stakes world of the rail and the mill, your word is your capital. If you are a man who can be bought, you are a man who will be sold. I never made a deal based on a lie. I never signed a contract that I did not intend to fulfill to the last letter. Why? Because the market is a living thing. It has a memory. It knows the difference between a builder and a pirate. If you wish to build a legacy, you must build it on a foundation of truth that is as solid as the steel we produced at Homestead. The second is the commandment of innovation. You must never be satisfied. The moment you say, this is good enough, is the moment you begin to decay. I was always looking for a better way, a faster way, a cheaper way. When the Bessemer process arrived, I did not cling to the old methods. I embraced the new. I tore down mills that were still profitable to build mills that were more efficient. You must be willing to cannibalize your own success to reach the next level. The empire of business is a moving target. If you stand still, you are a target for the competition. The third is the commandment of organization. A great man is not a man who does the work of 10 men. He is a man who can find 10 men to do the work of 100. I was once just a bobbin boy, but I became a conductor of industry. I learned to spot the rising star in the ranks. I learned to give a man enough rope to hang himself or to climb to the heavens. You must build a system that outlives you. If your business depends on your presence every hour, you do not own a business. You own a job, and a job.
The third is the commandment of organization. A great man is not a man who does the work of 10 men. He is a man who can find 10 men to do the work of 100. I was once just a bobbin boy, but I became a conductor of industry. I learned to spot the rising star in the ranks. I learned to give a man enough rope to hang himself or to climb to the heavens. You must build a system that outlives you. If your business depends on your presence every hour, you do not own a business, you own a job. And a job is not an empire. Now, let us address the sacred duty of surplus wealth. As I have said, and as I will say with my final breath, a man who dies rich dies disgraced. This is not a suggestion, it is a moral imperative. Wealth, when it reaches a certain point, ceases to be personal property. It becomes a community fund. You have been chosen by the law of competition to be the administrator of that fund. Do not leave your fortune to the state. The state is a poor manager. It has no heart. It has no vision. It only has bureaucracy. Do not leave it all to your children. To leave a young man a mountain of gold is to rob him of the very bracing wind that made you who you are. You are giving him a life of idleness, which is the mother of all vice. Instead, spend your wealth while you are alive. Be your own executor. Build the libraries where the young boy can find the keys to the world. Build the universities where the monopoly of talent can be cultivated. Build the parks where the working man can find a moment of peace. This is the only way to justify the concentration of wealth in the hands of the few. It is the only way to ensure that the ties of brotherhood remain unbroken. I recall my own early struggles to find a single book to read. When I began to build libraries, I was not just building buildings, I was building ladders of aspiration. I wanted every boy who had the will to have the tools. I did not want to give them a handout, I wanted to give them an opportunity. For a handout sours the soul, but an opportunity sweetens the character. As we reach the final minutes of this discourse, I want you to look into the future, not the future of next year or the next 10 years, but the future of the next century. What will remain of your industry? What will remain of your name? If you have lived only for yourself, the answer is nothing. You will be forgotten as soon as the grass grows over your grave. But if you have lived for the gospel of success, if you have lived as a trustee of the race, then your name will be written in the institutions you built. It will be written in the lives of the men you lifted. It will be written in the progress of the nation. I started with nothing. I started as a weaver's son in a foreign land. But I held to the laws of the mind. I held to the concentration of energy. I held to the sovereignty of the soul. And because I did, the world became my university, the industry became my pulpit, and the legacy became my reward. You too are a builder. Whether you are building a small shop or a global empire, the laws are the same. The fire is the same. The duty is the same. Do not be afraid of the height. The higher you climb, the clearer the air. Do not be afraid of the work. The harder the work, the sweeter the rest. Do not be afraid of the wealth. The greater the wealth, the greater the power to do good. The morning whistle is blowing for the last time in this discourse, but it is blowing for the first time in your new life. The old version of you, the man of doubt, the man of hesitation, is gone. He has been burned away in the furnace of this knowledge. In his place stands a master, a producer, a trustee. The master of your mind is the master of your destiny. The mills are waiting. The rails are waiting. The future is waiting. Go forth, build your empire. And when the sun sets on your career, let it be said of you, he lived well, he worked hard, and he left the world better than he found it. This is the gospel of success. This is the industrial law. This is your destiny. Let us reflect one last time on the 3 disposals.
I have told you that to die rich is to die disgraced. Let that sink into the marrow of your bones. When you look at your ledger at the end of each year, do not just count what you have gained, count what you have prepared to give back. The man who accumulates merely to possess is a miser. The man who accumulates to provide is a master. Which one will you be? I have seen the power of a single library to change a town. I have seen the power of a single university to change a generation. I have seen the power of a single park to change the spirit of the working man. And I tell you, there is no joy in the acquisition that can compare to the joy of the administration. You are the agent of the future. You are the steward of the law. Do not falter. Do not fade. The empire is yours to build. The legacy is yours to write. The sovereign self has spoken. Now, let the work begin.